Hello again, and for today, I am going to be delving into a commentary that for some reason I have not done really good at recording, because this is attempt number 3, and this commentary isn't really tough. It's just the fact that there's so much to be said, and what we're talking about, of course, is that the fault in Bob Iger's Disney lies in the purchase of Lucasfilm and the Star Wars franchise. Now, to understand this whole big concept, you have to go back to Bob Iger's roots post-college, when he worked at the ABC company, which is just America's broadcasting company, doing meaningless and thankless labor for like $150 an hour. Or not $150 an hour, that'd be nice. $150 a week. And he worked his way up the ladder, obviously. I believe it was like 89 he became CEO of the ABC company. And he sat through that till 98 when the company was purchased by Disney. Then he moves up the Disney corporate ladder and becomes CEO and president effectively in 2003 after Michael Eisner retires. I believe it's the CEO role. He gets the president role first, Bob Iger. And now we're in Bob Iger's Disney. So what is Bob Iger's Disney marred with? Well, for one, the death of 2D animation. 2D animation went the way of the dinosaur, for lack of a better phrase, in Bob Iger's Disney. And Bob Iger specifically pumped up 3D animation because of the success of buying Pixar. Pixar was a kind of partner to Disney in that Pixar would do 3D animated movies while Disney stuck to the classic 2D format in the late 90s, 2000s when Pixar started up. And they had a great deal. And Pixar is now part of the Disney brand and kind of synonymous with Disney in the first place. Now, the second big purchase of the decade is the Marvel Comics company. And this is because Disney, for years, under Bob Iger specifically, tried to corner the young boys market. And they have done multiple attempts. They did a Disney Heroes, which is the, other side of the yin and yang to the Disney princesses, and that didn't work. They bought Power Rangers from Haim Saban, and the merchandising didn't go nearly as well as when it was under Saban, even though Bandai was the same company through the entire run of both Haim and Disney owning Power Rangers. So that didn't work. And literally right as Power Rangers RPM goes off the air and Power Rangers is seemingly canceled forever, Disney scoops up Marvel. See, it's now all just blurring together. And we now are in the predicament we are in. And this is because, specifically, Marvel Studios, run by Kevin Feige, needed a more financially stable partner to run after Phase 1. Paramount was doing great, but they could not handle the big team movie. And Disney could and continue the brand going. So I believe that was the big reason as to why the Marvel purchase happened, other than the fact that Disney desperately wanted a boys brand. And, oh man, a lot to say about Marvel. Maybe another day. And then, the decade following, two things happened. Number one, a science fiction film called John Carter, based on the John Carter of Mars series of books, totally bombs at the box office, and it's because Bob Iger has no faith in it. And yet, ironically, within the same year, due to the mega success of the Avengers' first team outing, Disney buys Star Wars. And not just Star Wars, they buy Lucasfilm Limited. And it sent shockwaves. I've already talked about this. But what we all didn't really know is that they bought Lucas for the property and kind of said fuck you afterwards. Because Bob Iger himself is not a creative man. And we'll get to that later. But his comments recently, that coming out of the press tour of his ridiculous autobiography, which you should pick up, and I will upload the Barnes & Noble exclusive to Imgur if I can get the account back. And you'll be able to read how fucking ridiculous Bob Iger is from the stuff that wasn't leaked to the media about his comments on Star Wars. Because that Star Wars comment is now infamous, where he essentially says, we wanted to do our own thing, but George had all these great ideas, and he felt really betrayed. But, we really felt betrayed by him, because how do we live up to Star Wars? Well, you listen to the guy who fucking made it, you dunce. But continuing on with Bob Iger, he's not creative. And this is shown by, his big-ass purchases, which now include beyond Pixar, Marvel, and Lucasfilm, Star Wars, Indiana Jones, National Geographic, and fucking 20th Century Fox, which is essentially buying another movie studio to add to your movie studio. So yeah, I don't know how the fucking federal government has not come in to stop that kind of monopoly, but I guess we're not there yet. I guess it has to be all under one umbrella for it to be a real monopoly. But who am I to talk about competition? With all this shit, and, these Lion King, Little Mermaid, Mulan, Lady and the Tramp, Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, Cinderella, all these fucking, Jungle Book, all these fucking Disney remakes just show that Disney as a company is no longer a creative, forward-thinking company. So now we're in the animation world, we're just doing properties and fucking finishing out all the princesses from story tales that we've never done, and filling out the diversity quota of every princess. And it's really stupid. And I really miss, the Disney that took risks like Lion King, made dares to make great animation. And instead now we just have like the knockoff of 3D DreamWorks, which is really sad when you think about it. And this is Bob Iger's Disney. And yet what a lot of people don't understand, because they've never worked for Disney, is that people are fucking terrified of Bob Iger. When Bob Iger comes in for a quarterly report, everyone is acting on their best behavior, and they clean rooms down that he's going to be in, and they, fix it all up, and it's crazy. And it's all for this guy who has not a single creative bone in his body, and is just a shrewd businessman who thinks he's ahead of the curve by entering the streaming wars. And he's really fucking dumb when it comes to the streaming wars, because at some point the streaming bubble will burst. And just because you have other people's content does not mean that you'll be able to survive. You have to survive on basically your original properties. And, if all the others go back to Netflix and Hulu, and Disney is the only one standing, well then yeah, Disney will eventually fall, because people will get tired of Disney shit, and they already are. And I don't think they're really going to have a good decade next decade, unless they fucking course correct. And here are a couple ways, since I'm all about solutions. Number one, we need to bring back 2D animation. That should have never died at Disney. Disney should have been the flagship standard bearer of 2D animation. And the fact that 2D animation is now just dead overall is really gross. It's about as gross as the fact that, there's not a lot of practical effects going around on live action feature filmmaking. But, again, another topic for another day. Number two, you gotta address the Disney parks. If you follow Clownfish TV here on YouTube or on Twitter, or hopefully they will get to BitChute very soon, those guys are a husband and wife duo that cover animation, Star Wars, Marvel, and the Disney parks. And it's because they used to be operators of a Disney fan park blog, or a Disney park fan blog. And what they're so good at is knowing where to look for when the stories break about how the Disney parks are fucking up left, right, and center. And every time they're right on the money. And I have not spent money at a Disney park since, and I don't think I ever will. I think it's really rubbed me wrong ever since I went last in 2016 when they opened up Galaxy's Edge and destroyed the movie section of fucking Disney Hollywood Studios. You know, the backlot's gone. The fucking stunt show's gone. And it is just, for what? A fucking lame Star Wars land that doesn't even work? You know, Star Wars, Marvel, Pixar, they don't need lands in pre-existing parks. They need their own lands because they're that big. But, you know, if you're Bob Iger, you're not that creative. So, I'm going to wrap this up now that I've given my two big solutions. I think it help a lot, you know. Obviously, reining in Kathleen Kennedy and putting someone new in at Lucasfilm. Obviously, like, addressing the Marvel Comics issue would be really big. And, you know, maybe stepping in at Pixar and being more active. Especially now that John Lasseter had his Me Too moment. And I don't think there's a head at the ship right now. So, yeah, a lot of things need to be addressed at Disney, and Bob Iger is certainly not the man to do it, especially given the fact that he is retiring very soon. I believe it's like 2021 or 2022, and he's just like washing his hands and getting the fucking golden parachute that he thinks he deserves, when in reality he deserves to have his legacy be destroyed the way Trump is destroying Obama's legacy. That's pretty awesome. I hope someone does that someday. I don't really think it should be me. I think it should be someone with the creative and business savvy to get the job done. And on that note, to the Walt Disney Company, to the shareholders, to the board of directors, if this is the path forward with unoriginality, laziness, and overall, you know, lowest quality to get the most amount of money, you better tread lightly, because the mouse will only be in the hearts of children for so long.